All right, folks, welcome to the wheel part two. Please go to your Onshape account. You should have something called intro stuff or something like that. By the way, if you click on the image, you're not going to get anything. I notice students have been having problems with that. You have to go up to the words. Notice that I'm hovering over the actual title of the document and click on that. And that will bring you into your work. Now, you might show something else that you were working on, like maybe your sketch playing cube. So you might have to hover around down along the bottom until you find your wheel. Let's start by making sure that you built this correctly the first time. So it was supposed to be a 22, right, inch rim. And we can check that through a couple methods. I'd like you to do this with me, please. One is your browser is your story of what you've done. So you can always go back to further up in the story. So I put the mouse over sketch one. Double clicking on sketch one will mean that I'm editing that. Now it's ignoring everything else that's turned gray in the browser, right? Because it pretends that didn't exist. It's like we're in chapter one and chapter two on doesn't even happen right now. Again, move things around and let's look at where we made that sketch was in the front view. That brings it perpendicular. You should have a 0.25 by 10 inch rectangle that from the outside of the rectangle was revolved around a line that is 11 inches away. So check to make sure that's true. If that's not true, you might have to go back and watch the video from the previous lesson. Check. Okay, this is a good point to make another lesson also. Let's start by measuring. I'm going to get rid of my own picture for a second and start by measuring to make sure that we were right. So this cylinder should be 22 inches in diameter. So one of the things we can do, it's down here on the bottom right. There's a little measuring tool. So let's please click on that. We can measure a lot of different things. It says select entities to measure. So we're going to kind of zoom in, and you can either click on the cylinder itself or just the edge of it. I think I'll click on the cylinder and it's going to give me some information. One thing it tells me is the diameter of that. And if you hover over it, it actually gives you a little preview, which is 22. That's what it's supposed to be. I'm all good. If it's not, then we have, again, got to go back to the previous lesson. All right, clicking anywhere will get you out of that. So another thing that was supposed to happen last class is that you should have made this thing by revolving originally. Then you made some little bitty sketches up there of those little lips that are going to become where the tire would hit the rim. And you did one of those as a revolve and one of those as a sweep. Now, let's say you did them both as a revolve. You can actually go back and edit that by double clicking, okay, and selecting what you did and removing it or altering it. So right now I had a couple of faces that I revolved around. If I had done the other one, I could have removed the faces of the other side because you were supposed to do that as a sweep. Okay. Another thing that we can do is we can take this bar and go backwards, and it will take you through the progression of what you did. And if you have one thing, then another thing, that's what was supposed to happen in the last video. We just did one as a sweep and one as a revolve, two different possible operations. So make sure that you have that, please. And now we're going to go on to make the inside part of the wheel. Okay, I want to explore a couple little things before we go on. So let's do this. And remember that undo is your friend. Your browser over here is the story of your part. It's how you built it. You can alter things in there. You can delete things. You can change things. Okay, you can go back and change sketch one if it wasn't done correctly, and it will update that. Here's the problem with that, though. Let's say I go back here and I decide to delete revolve one. That was the first thing. Well, these little lips are based on where that is. And if I delete that, it's like deleting parents from a story and leaving the children. You can't do that. So if I try and click on my first revolve and delete it, everything's gone. And notice revolve 2 and sweep 1 are red. And it says it couldn't regenerate properly. Well, that's because you made the parent not exist ever and then thought that the child would exist. That doesn't happen. So undo is your friend here. I'm going to bring myself back here. So know that those things are there and those things are editable. All right, we're going to move on now. We're going to create the inside part of this wheel where it would mount to a hub. So on a wheel, you generally have a mid plane in the middle, and it is not going to be right in the center. It's usually going to be to one side or another. So remember how we made a plane, that plane through the middle in the first one? We're going to make another plane that goes through the middle of this cylinder, but not right through the middle. So up here again, and again, if you don't show this little rectangle thing, there's a drop-down menu that will give you your options and allow you to choose plane. Click on plane. And that brings up this little window. It's asking me to choose entities, which means that it says, where would you like to put this plane, which needs to be a flat surface. There are multiple options like offset. Last time, I believe we used line and angle. Okay, today we're going to use offset. And we're going to choose our distance. Now, for me to do that, I'm going to have to come up here and choose this flat surface. It's a little tricky because I have to make sure that both of those lines are on. Actually, I might be able to just choose a circle. Let me try that. Click and see if it will give me an off. No, it doesn't want to do that. So I'm going to delete that. Let me try that again. I want to choose my entity is going to be this flat surface, but so I have to hover on. So both of those lines are showing me I'm on that flat surface. And now it gives me this little arrow that I can use to drag. So notice that the plane popped up because I clicked on the flat surface, not just one line, but both of them. And now I can take this plane and move it wherever I would like to move it. And I think I would like to go right about there. Don't go right in the middle. So I think maybe I'll choose 3. You choose whatever number you want, but don't make it right in the middle. 5 would be in the middle, so make it something other than that. And we're going to say OK to put that plane right there. Okay, so once again, to go over those steps, we clicked plane. We clicked a surface to offset from, which means we had to select both of those lines at the same time and click on them. And then we created an offset plane by dragging the arrow. All right, cool. So now that's where our inside part of the wheel is going to start. So we're going to sketch on that plane that we just made. Sketch on the plane. Again, always bring yourself perpendicular by clicking on the view cube. If you're at some bizarre angle, the other thing that you can do is click on the plane that you are on. Actually, we won't click on that. Just right click in any open area and it say view normal to sketch plane, and that will bring you perpendicular to that. All right. Now we need to extrude the inside circle, but here's the problem. Just like we had last time, move this a little bit. There's no line there. Okay. So this is again where we're going to use this little thing. Again, I don't know where it is on your toolbar. You might have to find it. If you hover over it, it will say what it is, which is use or project or convert. So we're actually projecting a line onto, or a circle in this case, onto this plane. So I'm going to click that feature, highlight it, notice it turned blue, and I'm going to click the inside edge, which will take that inside edge and it moves it or makes a copy of it essentially on the inside. So now I can use that as a closed profile. So once you see that little line, we can finish sketch 3. And now we're going to extrude. By clicking extrude, it wants to know which regions, and now we can click inside of this profile that we just made. And let's go to a depth of 0.25, which is the same thickness as the rest of the rim. It doesn't really matter which way. You can flip the arrow to go one way or the other. It doesn't really matter for this. All right, now we have a solid surface in there. So we have kind of a wheel. Now you can leave planes on. For me personally, I don't like seeing things. I just want to see my objects. So I go to my browser and I click the little eyeball to turn things off that I don't want to see. All right, let's start by, we're going to make a pattern on this, and we're going to sketch on that flat disc that we just made in the middle. Okay, as always, I want to come perpendicular to my vision. Now this time, I'm going to create an area of about a 7-inch diameter that I don't want to be within, because that's where the bolt hole pattern and stuff's going to go. So let's start by making a circle, just normal center point circle. Hover a little bit and you'll see that square show up that as I hover in the middle, which means that I'm being concentric with the circle I'm about to make with the circle that you see. And I want to do that. I want to be right in the middle. So once that little square pops up, click and drag, and we're going to make and click again to set the circle. And then we're going to enter in 7, enter. Now this is going to be a profile, but I'm not going to do any extruding of that. So I think I'm going to make that a construction circle, and hit escape to get myself out of that command. And I'm going to click on the circle once just to highlight it and come up here to where I can convert to a construction line. And that will make that highlighted. Hitting escape or clicking outside the object will get me out of the highlighting. So now it's not part of any profile that I'm going to make. All right, so my pattern for whatever I draw is going to stay outside of that profile. All right, so again, I'm going to have to possibly project this edge. Honestly, I'm not sure if it'll work or not. Part of this is a little bit of trial and error, so we're going to see if it works. I'm going to tilt it up a little bit just so I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to just draw something to cut out. Now, this is where you get to be creative and do something a little bit unique to you. So what you have to make sure is that you're clicking an enclosed profile. So I think I'm going to click there, come down to maybe here, continue my line up to the same circle where we started. So I'm sure I have an enclosed shape. I think I have an enclosed shape. I might need to project this edge up here. Nope, it looks like I have a profile. If you don't have a profile, sometimes you need to draw it again. But as long as you have one, we're all good, okay? And we're gonna finish this sketch and now extrude the profile that you just made, that one in my case. But this time, instead of adding, we're going to remove it and cut through. And instead of going a depth with a blind amount of distance, we're going to choose the N type, click the little drop down menu, and we're going to go through all. Make that a habit. If you're going to go through everything, go through everything. Okay, don't choose a distance, because if you go change something later, it might be that that distance stays, but you built something around it. All right, so once I've got that, we're going to go, okay, cool. So I've got this one thing, but I don't want one thing. I want a pattern of things. Now I could have patterned in the sketch, but I prefer to do this in 3D mode. We're going to take that extrusion that we just made. I'm going to highlight it in the browser by clicking on it. Then I'm going to come up to the toolbar and find there's a thing that looks like a little Rubik's Cube kind of, which is linear pattern. Inside of that, in the drop-down menu, is a circular pattern. So we're going to click circular pattern. It says, what entities would you like to pattern? Now I'm going to show you the mistake that I always make when I do this. So I click on extrude to. That's the entity that I want to pattern. And then I say, okay, let's try and pattern it around a circle that I choose. So I choose a circle and, oh, it wants an axis. So I choose an axis and nothing happens. Oh, this time it happened. Okay. Here's why it might not happen for you. Let's go back to the beginning here. What I've done in the past is I've accidentally had a part pattern. Well, it's doing it with the part pattern. Let me check on this. Okay, now this is kind of weird. It didn't remove it. Something went wrong. Guys, this happens. If things go wrong, just undo it or undo what you did in the browser and let's try it again. Okay, sometimes things don't work out the way you wanted them to. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to go up to circular pattern. It says, what entities do I want to pattern? I want to pattern this. Now here's where things get weird. I can't select it. That's because it's not a part, it's a feature. So up here at the top, click the little drop down and select feature pattern instead of part pattern. Now I can select a feature like extrude to. It recognized it, it's up here, and now I got to click on axis of pattern to say, where is that going to go? And you just click a circle that you want it to go around. Click on that circle. Now it gives you an instance count, which is how many of them would you like there to be? I don't know, let's do 6. See how that looks. And enter will give you a preview, another enter. I'm going to do 7. Let's try 7. Enter preview. Okay. Now, one of the things that has to happen is you have to click apply per instance because it won't do anything unless you click that, and then it will do that. Okay. And honestly, I hate it. I don't like how this looks. So if you get what you're doing and you want to move on past this next part a little bit or speed this video up again, that's fine because you get to do kind of your own thing. I'm just going to delete that pattern. I don't even like it and get rid of it. I think I'm just going to get rid of extrude to also and delete it. Go back and edit my sketch 4. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to get rid of these lines by clicking on them and deleting them. I click on them and then I click the delete button and do something a little different. Maybe, what do I got? How about up here is the arc tool. 3-point arc. There's also splines. You can kind of play around with this stuff, but 3-part arc, I think I'm going to hook up there. I'm going to hook one end of my arc, click on the other end of my arc, and then click in the middle for what you want it to look like. And then let's do another one. Click there, and something like that maybe. And then down here, maybe I'll click here, and try and kind of match the inside circle. All right, cool. Now, I think that's an enclosed profile. Let's try this one. Finish sketch. Yep, enclosed profile. We're going to cut, again, extrude that. We're going to remove, and I'm going to choose to go through all again. Okay. And let's see how this looks when I pattern that. So I'm going to go again to my circular pattern, click on it. Again, I got to do a feature pattern of that extrusion I just made. My axis, click on that to activate it, make it blue. Click on what I want to go around. I'm going to change my instant count to, I don't know, let's do 8 and see what happens. Here gives me a preview. I think I'm going to do 9. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. And of course, I have to hit apply per instance. And, well, I like that way better. I didn't like the first one. All right, cool. So now we've got that. And the last thing to do is we're going to make, usually a rim has a hole in the hub and a bolt hole in a pattern. So let's do that. This will be the last thing we do. I'm going to go through this fast because you already have the skills now. Sketch on this surface. Okay, bring it perpendicular to my vision. Let's draw a circle in the middle that's going to be, notice the square pops up, about what you think the size of a normal hole in the middle would be ish. Okay. I think that's about right. Maybe I'll make it 2.75 because I don't like weird numbers. I like them to be something that would be normal. And we're going to do one more little thing that represents the hole. So if I'm still in this hole or in the circle command, I'm going to hover over the center, go up, and notice that little line says, oh, you're lined up. I don't really care about the distance from the center right now. We're just playing around with it. And click just click when you think it looks about right, like the lug bolt hole. Okay. Once you got that, say, okay, we're going to extrude those two things that we just made. And of course, we're going to cut, or excuse me, remove all of it through all. Cool. And do the same thing we just did. We're going to make a circular pattern. I want to, again, do a feature pattern, not a part pattern. I want to circular pattern those 2, 3. Now, you are circular patterning the middle one. You just won't notice it because it's just turning within itself, right? So the axis that I would like to go around is choose a circle. And let's not make it a Toyota. Let's make it a Ford. We'll have 5. You can choose however many you want, anywhere between 4 and 8. Doesn't matter to me as long as you like it. And check. Whoops. What happened? Didn't like it. Oh, I bet I didn't hit apply. Yeah, see, if you hover over it, it says try selecting apply per instance. So I'm going to double click on that, and I forgot to check that little box. That wasn't a lesson thing. I just forgot. All right. And we've got our rim. So make it in a view that you can kind of see that stuff. So it looks cool. Put it over here next to your browser. And as always, when you take your picture, please make sure that you get an image that includes the browser and your name up here. Okay. If you just give me a picture of the wheel, I'm going to kick it back to you or I'm not going to count it. So do both. All right, guys. Hopefully you got it done, enjoyed, have a cool looking wheel. Talk to you next time.